I'm going to get a couple of things going in the background. I'm going to run Genie motion. Just curious, yeah, you've seen my talk. Has anyone else seen my talk? No? Because we got a lot of questions we had a mobile booth down there, and a lot of people ask about CouchBase, how it differentiates with some of the other databases out there. Also, like, what is the product? What are we talking about? So before, I was thinking about doing something very technical. I think I'm going to mix it up with both and also do peer-to-peer. So you guys get a good overview of what CouchBase Mobile and CouchBase is. How's that sound? Fair there? Okay. So you don't have to go to the booth and ask, like, what is CouchBase? What is CouchBase? What is CouchBase? So the talk is about mobile. Android specifically, just because, and I think my name is William, and you can hit me up on Twitter. My email is basically william@couchbase, but Twitter I answer things way quicker and way faster, so you can reference that. You guys are lucky, there's not that many, so anyone that tweets in the crowd during the session and at the end of the session, you can take some pictures, you can say some good things and whatnot. You're in for the 1+1 random Twitter. I will basically look at my notification on Twitter and randomly pick somebody for the 1+1. I have a couple of Android phones, also the 1+1. Yeah, you tweet the both of them because if you don't tweet me, I have to log into the CouchBase account on Twitter, look for it. If you tweet me, I can reference it immediately on my personal. And definitely AndDevCon, right? So we're here for AndDevCon. For those who are coming late, I was just talking about, like, I have a phone to give away. It's not a BlackBerry, so it's in 1+1. I used to work at BlackBerry and I love it. But anyways, I want to talk about NoSQL a bit. I want to jump into this a bit. Why it makes sense for mobile. Especially, we have a lot of data from various places coming in and out. A lot of mobile devices are basically writing to the server, persisting data, images, videos, whatnot, and even unstructured data. So those who are familiar with, like, tweets, for example, previously working at Twitter, if you look at the amount of data that comes in, is crazy. So it's basically exponential. And traditionally, if you look at database technology, it's like, if you ever did any UML diagramming or creating a database, it's actually very, very painful to design something like this. And especially for mobile, things change really quickly. So NoSQL is really just JSON, right? It's flattening down two tables as an example, and it's the equivalent of one document that's like keys and values. So that's what NoSQL is. There's multiple flavors of NoSQL. For CouchBase, it's a document-oriented database. So for those who are familiar with MongoDB, they're based in New York, right? So it's the same kind of schema in that regard, same type of database. Different use cases. A lot of people switch to CouchBase for various reasons, but I'm going to be focusing on mobile, and that's why if you think about NoSQL, it makes a lot of sense for mobile. Why are you considering this? I live in Brooklyn, in Williamsburg, and I guarantee you tonight at any bar or speakeasy, this is not a scenario. You don't have constant connection. It's just, you even walk down like Fifth Avenue, you get spotty connection. And we're pretty much reliant on using HTTP REST calls to get content that's remote somewhere else. And open your favorite application and you're probably gonna see this experience at some point in time. Even Instagram, you can't even edit your pictures, save it, you can't send it off accordingly, exit your app, your picture's gone. Basically, it's doing the same get call again and again and again. And most apps are frustrating because it says try again later, because you don't have that connection to get all your content. So it makes a lot of sense to consider a mobile database, only because living in New York, you don't get this. You're pretty much getting this a lot of times. And that translates into a horrible rating. Your apps just don't work. It's always slow. And if you look at where this problem is, it's really deal with app freezing, crashing, slow responsiveness, and because the data location is the problem, it's somewhere remote. The solution's created a hybrid solution, right? You guys, if you pass by Firebase also is in this space. There's also a bunch of other projects, companies out there, only because IoT is picking up, mobile is picking up, and you just don't need sync. You just don't need to always do fetch calls. You sync accordingly. So I'll be showing that in the demo. I'll also be showing peer-to-peer shortly. So what this really translates into is your app is always fast. It's always available, because if it's not connected, you're in the subway, on the airplane, you're doing all your data reads, writes accordingly locally. Everything's on the phone. Your phone's like a hard drive. It's a disk. Why can't you? Only because database is not easy to do. It's hard, and that's what we're focused on. So that's what offline matters. So if you built that cool app that you spent money on, resource, especially time, all that content lives behind like a spinner wheel, and people uninstall your application. That's not cool, right? Like offline, the way I see it, is a feature. It's a feature that enables all the other good stuff that product managers, that wireframe this stuff, engineers that code it, designers that have assets. Offline is a feature that enables everything else. So even before you talk about features, consider offline. Consider having a database that can support that you don't need a connection, right? Even if you have the biggest battery, it's going to be a drain. CouchBase Mobile provides that piece as a library, so I just want to go through this quickly. On the left-hand side is what we focus on as mobile designers, engineers, developers. Import that library in. It's about 600 kilobytes for Android. So it's all across all the platforms. It's about 500 KB, and from there you get the library that lets you create a database. And for the demo app we're going to show, you're going to see an app that has local persistence, and you can get syncs to the server. The entire stack is open source. It's pretty amazing. You can see all our issues, what we're working on, our sprint planning on GitHub. But I think for us, we don't really care about the server. The main focus is about these two pieces. So CouchBase Lite, like I said, is the NoSQL library. So you're writing JSON files as a database. Runs in process, small footprint, 600 kilobytes. Any features you don't want, go build from source, go to GitHub, rip it out. I've gotten it down to like 400 KB. It runs on my Raspberry Pi. So it runs on embedded devices. Raspberry Pi is inclusive. It's a document-oriented database. We do MapReduce to do our indexes and queries. Event notifications abstracted out, so you can create a listener or background thread anytime you have something that changes in the background. Take that, render it to the UI, do something. You don't always have to be listening to it. The sexiest feature, to be honest, is sync. This is not easy to do for those who are ever did any packet passing or protocol massaging of this sort. Wireshark, those who are familiar with that program, it's painful. Did you get my packets? Great. Did you get all of them? Great. How come I never got a receiver back? Okay. My timestamp and yours are different, right? So all this stuff is abstracted out for you. So, like I said, document-oriented, it has versioning in it, so this is what differs, or use case driven. We keep an entire revision history in the background. Schemaless, so you don't have to dig yourself a 6 feet grave with UML diagramming like I showed in that picture. You don't need to do any data migration. You can extend your model because it's key values, right? Just put another key in a document. Because of that, you can code fast. So in 5 lines of code, you just have local persistence. I'll show this. I'll talk about this even further, but in 5 lines of code without sync, you have a way to save your images, your string data and whatnot into your disk. this is what NoSQL looks like, right? So it's just keys and values. This is one object. So the type is, you can query for a key called type, and the value is called session. So I have two objects. I can have type still as a key, but my value would be session 1. My other type would be session 2. So if it doesn't match that key, I don't even have to go and query the first squiggly stuff. I can just move on to the next one. So for example, you can have nested values. My location, I'm in Brooklyn, previously in Montreal, so I'm Canadian. Don't make fun of me for that. Sync, talk about this too. Full master-master replication. There's no concept of one is primary and one secondary. You have eventual consistency across all your devices in terms of your data. You can do it continuously with sockets. So if you build a chat application, it's possible, but also ad hoc. You can tie it to explicit intent for that. And change notification, conflict detection is also done for you using an API. Conflict detection is pretty cool. For us, of course, it would be Maven Central, but across the stack, across all the platforms, it's available. Even on BlackBerry, because it runs PouchDB. For those who are not familiar, PouchDB is an open source JavaScript framework to build web apps, and it basically uses Sync Gateway. Sync Gateway is that data process piece that lets you do orchestration. So it acts like a proxy. So passing data accordingly due to authentication or authorization. So this gives you some sort of a bit of privacy too. So again, this is what the stack looks like, right? You got CouchBase Lite, you got Sync Gateway, that basically you write who gets the data, how do they get the data, etc. And CouchBase Server, just think of it like a data store. So the flagship product is the CouchBase Server. Company's been around for 5 years, and that piece on the right-hand side, even though mobile developers really don't care about, you do care about if you do have apps that go into production. When you hit billions, millions of users, people feel the costs go up. It's only because they don't have a strong foundation. In our world, the strong foundation is on the server side. So we can talk about a lot of this stuff later, but it's not really mobile specific. Think of it like it's a car that has a really strong engine and it works and it scales. You can do channels, right? So this is where you can create channels, you can subscribe to it. So imagine you work on a team, you can put different users, different employees on different channels, and when you update a document, when you update a database, they are the ones who can get certain access to that channel. And it's in production. Lots of apps are using even more than what I've displayed. So these are all in the App Store. This one, I don't know if you see my mouse, you can. So going from the left, this 1, 2, 3, the third one is called FrontLog. It's an exact clone of Evernote. So if you ever use Evernote and see how they do it, their engineering team's about 17, 18 engineers dedicated to sync to local store. Think of us as your 17, 18 engineers that's just doing that feature piece. So FrontLog is like a 4-person development shop. They use CouchBase to give them that syncing ability to do store cross-platform sync. They're on desktop, so if you're in the App Store, if you're on Mac, look up FrontLog, FRONTLOG, and then on your device, I can also show. So you can just sync that accordingly. Let's show a demo, because that's a cool thing. So what's happening here is that I am not connected. Let's try to get connected. Not that one, this one. All right, so I'm gonna start a sync gateway. Remember what sync gateway is? I have everything running locally, so it's not hosted in the cloud somewhere. You can put it on any hosting provider you wish to put on. So we don't manage that. That's not our core or business. I personally have one on DigitalOcean that I pay for. There's free hosted ones like AWS. If you go into production, you probably have to pay for it, but this is all running locally, so I'm gonna kill this. This is Sync Gateway. This is the piece that does the data passing accordingly. I can go over that in code in a bit. But I have Genie Motion that I have an app running. So you can see these are two separate images or instances. I've already built them. This is 36, this is 67, or if you really want to see difference, this is Genie and this one is Google Nexus, just two separate images. This is what might be killing my, there you go. So we just started Sync Gateway. You have that warm up a bit. But essentially what's happening here is that they're two separate, imagine someone in the back is using this app. I'm using this somewhere else in like California. And since we're in Droidcon, right? So let's say Droidcon NYC. You have local persistence, and this syncing stuff is done by CouchBase Mobile. All that logic code is done by us. You don't write any of that. You write UI code, UX code, basically experience of when and where you want something to render accordingly. So remember I typed this on the left. It's like, yeah, I'm at Droidcon too, right? So you don't see a sync right away because think of it like Wi-Fi spotty, but you can still have an experience, right? So as opposed to, yeah, you don't have Wi-Fi connection, you can't do anything, try again later, spinner kicks in. So all this replication code is tied to, for this app, it's tied to on app exit. We push everything upwards. See, it's synced, right? Because on app start, we pull everything down from the server. Droidcon also was in Montreal, my hometown. So if I update this to Montreal, see background stuff, this is syncing. So, sure, people ask like, yeah, Firebase does this too, right? Sure. What's really cool is, if you go on the airport, right? I travel quite a bit. So airplane mode is typical for me, but if I do decide to modify this, right? So there's a London one, but Droidcon just recently announced, you guys remember which city? It's on the west coast of the States. San Fran. All right. So this one is local, and it's synced up to the server because it's still connected. Don't forget this one, I went on airplane mode. There's no Wi-Fi. But both modified the same key or the parent document. Remember it was Droidcon Montreal. Now one became Droidcon London, one became Droidcon San Francisco. So when I get back or land or get off, you can see like, hey, there's like this funny looking, looks like Back to the Future icon that popped up. This one hasn't yet for, it's not, this one, Wi-Fi might be spotty. Let's just try to force that. It's based on eventual consistency. I can sit there and wait on it, but just don't want to. The reason why this shows up is because there's a query listener in the back that's listening for conflict, and we're looking at basically a Boolean that has a conflict that comes back as true. So you don't need to do anything, right? You as an app developer write that logic depending on what you want to do. Over here it's like, yeah, there's a conflict. I want to render some image, right? So eventual consistency. We pick a default winner and just shoot it up to the user. But if you actually go here, since it's an indicator, there's something something like a conflict that happened, you can resolve conflict, right? You can see like, yeah, there's actually London as a key, there's actually San Francisco as a key. So you can pick, right? You can pick, yeah, it's actually not London, it's gonna be San Francisco that's happening soon. I think London's next year, it already happened. So that's really cool. Or you can decide, you can merge, you can create a logic that decides to merge the two together, merge those two strings or keys. So, like, for example, if I just delete London, right, San Francisco is still there. We keep that revision tree. As opposed, it's based on the premise idea of like last write wins. It's like, so it's like a stack that has 0, and anyone that pops onto it, pushes onto it and pops off, you never see that previous key. Previous value to that key ever again. I think it's pretty cool. like it's pictures and anything. We store, we sync blobs too. Oh yeah, nothing will work here. See, immediacy, right? Let's turn on the camera, front. See if this works. Nope. Take a picture. Is it back camera? Oh, there you go. Oh, it's ugly. There you go. Oh, ugly. So this app is, as a sample, written with CouchBase library as a framework. I want to delete ugly, but yeah, you see it's syncing accordingly. And I just want to talk about this going back to the slide. So that's the demo of it. And if you look at what's happening here from code, really quickly, we basically brought in CouchBase as a library. So on the top, I'm not showing this, you have import statements of CouchBase. But CouchBase is referencing a manager class. Think of it, manager as your parent here. And bringing that in, instantiating it, you can get all the goodies of CouchBase. And then once you have a manager class, you can reference a database. So when you do database, should call it another thing. Imagine database equals manager dot get database. We pass in that string. We basically create a database. If it doesn't exist, we create it. Like I said, it's a document-oriented database. So now that we created this container house, so to say, you only able to get access to that database if you're document types, right? So in Android, or if you look at what keys and values looks like, for us, we reference it like a dictionary. And for Java, for Android, it's like a hash map. So we instantiate a hash map here, and we do basically, we put in some keys, right? The first one's type. The value of type is list. String here is just a list. The second one, key is title, but it has a variable that references it. So that title could be something you do a get call, or you have the user type it in the field, and then it gets populated accordingly. So essentially, you have five, if I can count right, five puts there that basically puts keys and values accordingly. So coming back to why NoSQL makes sense for mobile, we basically just extended this database. We didn't go and decide, okay, did it make sense type and title should be in the same table, or should be in a separate table? Should we do some joins and then do some selects? We just don't know, dump it in. Like, we just dumped all of these keys and values into one document, right? And from there, we can extend our data model accordingly. So that's what we did here. You can take something out, it essentially just translates into coding really fast. And then what's different in this slide is, don't forget, we still have to put this map object into a database, right? So into a document. So it'd be document, this database, create that document. When you do document equals database, remember database is here. That database references the manager, the one right after the equal sign there. So the last line, when you do put properties, you just have local persistence right there. So it might look like a lot of code, but it's essentially 5 lines of code, 6 lines of code that you can get data onto your device. This is not doing anything like syncing. To do sync, or when we do a query here, basically you create one of these, you customize a property such as the key and the range, and then you run it. The result is like a query enumerator, provides you with a list of query row objects, and each one describes this one row of views index. So this is creating an index for you, so you can just do fast querying after you create it. To do some reactive stuff like reactive UI, there's another feature called LiveQuery. Think of it like as soon as something changes, it'll get updated. You get updated on the client side accordingly. So you can go through this too. It's all public, but the syncing part, right? How do we get data syncing upwards and downwards? We basically have a URL on the server or in the cloud. For this example, everything's local, so it's a local host. Once you create that sync URL, you're basically using CouchBase's API to create a pull replication that references the sync URL. So when you do create pull replication, you pass in the sync URL parameter there, and then you call start. Well, you basically, you're starting a replication call to the server, and if there's any changes, you get that update locally. The same thing goes for, well, over here you add some authentication. So if you have that token, great, then you can go ahead. If not, breaks or create some exit message. So that's pull replication. The same thing goes for push, right? I just show one example that does from mobile, pulling from server, same logic, same code, different APIs. So create pull replication, we create push replication. Push would be from device to the server. And you can create that snippet of code in whatever logic context you want, right? On app exit, as soon as the user takes a picture, they don't even approve it, automatically goes up. You decide how you want to write that sync code. Some sites, if you want to take down, I can show it later, or take a picture of it, of the programming docs, the example, whatnot, the forums, and it's all open source. So definitely, if you want to check up on this, give it to your friends, engineering teams, whatnot, to play around with it. It's open source, so we take community pull requests too, not only in the samples, but in the production code. Wow. So I was going to talk about peer-to-peer, so that's why I wanted to just throw that in there before I talked about peer-to-peer, because peer-to-peer is actually a more advanced topic than what I just talked about. So remember that stack, the three icons, CouchBase Lite, Sync Gateway, Server. Peer-to-peer is basically looking like this, right? Peer-to-peer deals with having a parent and having children underneath. And that's CouchBase. That's the current scenario that we showed just now on the left-hand side. And that's like 99.9% of what your apps are doing right now. Peer-to-peer, think of it like walkie-talkie, right? That's what a peer-to-peer is. Like it's the old school concept of a walkie-talkie. You don't have to go to a dispatch and have them, push down any messaging or whatnot. So it abstracts the parent, so it just becomes you and the other person. So those naughty Snapchat pictures, they keep them because you have a parent, right? It's there, it doesn't disappear. Peer-to-peer, less so. What does peer-to-peer mean? So we're very familiar with the star topology of what this is. Peer-to-peer is that far right one that you see. It's called fully connected network, meaning that if I want to shoot a picture back to the Asian girl who's texting in the pink shirt, oh, she got it. So I don't have to go to the server and come to you. I can, bounce it off like over there. It's think of it like Chinese. What do you call that? It's not chess. It's like the thing of marbles. You can jump around. Checkers. Yeah, Chinese checkers, right? It's like that. You can ping it off different people to get to wherever your destination is, or it can just be a private network between two people or a group, and you can just bounce. Because essentially, if one person goes down, a battery dies. You don't have like a ring network or a star network that it's reliant on having a node. So, the implementation of this, I think we saw a bit too much Android code. I want to do some iOS. So it basically uses a QR code for this example for peer discovery. So there's an explicit intent here. Discovery is actually one of the hardest things to do. But for this example, we let the user decide, hey, do you want to sync with me? Yes, you acknowledge you have that intent. It uses a one-time push replication to transfer pictures here. We use a digest for authentication. It generates a one-time user credential. And for this example, it also supports Android, but I want to go through the iOS topic. For those who are unfamiliar with iOS, you can storyboard this. It's really easy. Just go in there, click on the Storyboard folder, it launches in your IDE or Xcode, and you can basically create frames of like how each one transitions accordingly. So basically there's 3 simple view controllers here, where the view controller is the entry to the application. We select photos from our phone and then we can send them. If you press send, your photo album will show up. If you press receive, you will be given a QR code on the bottom right, and the sender will basically have his or her camera open, and they will basically exchange contacts or authentication between the two. So what this looks like on the receive viewer controllers, let's walk through this. Here we set the port equal to 0, so that we basically let CouchBase Lite decide what we want to use here. And so this means that every time we want to share photos, the port will be changing every time. Then we enable the authentication. The authentication is a digest and supported by CouchBase Lite Listener. So in the CouchBase Lite library, there's a listener component or object you can basically reference. And after that, we have the username and password. We set the username and password for authentication, and after that, we basically can start the listener. So if successful, start that listener. So once the listener is started, we generate the sync URL of the URL endpoint, right? So between these 2 devices, there's an endpoint. It's to each other, to the receiver database. So we're basically using the listener.url here, and providing a username and password parameter, and of course the database. So that's on the receiver controller. We start the database listener so that we know that when the photo gets synced to the receiver database here, when that happens, we get the shared photos from the shared document, and basically accepts it into device. So this is what happens on the receiver controller. The last step for the receiver controller is here. Basically what a QR code does here is simply wrapping together the username, the password, and a particular endpoint that you want to sync between these 2 devices, and with the port, of course. For this example, it's using the core image filter. For Android, be what the platform provides. So from the first step, we have the CouchBase listener, and then we set up the database shared listener, and then we have the sync URL. So in 3 steps, 3 large steps. We'll basically use the sync URL to generate the QR code here. And in order to do so, we use the iOS core filter image. So in iOS, there's like a CS filter library, and there's actually other cool libraries you can import that has like circular QR codes and whatnot. Like Snapchat has their little cute design of those things. Those are all done and overdone like 1,000 times. But in iOS's framework, core filter, CS filter, it just has this default QR code that you can reference and push this schema to it. So that's the receiver, right? One receives, one sends. The sender view controller, ooh, that messes up. But essentially the step is set up the QR code scanner, you scan the QR code. Once you scan the QR code, to do that we basically use the AV capture session that iOS has. Android has the same equivalent. And we use that to scan the QR code. The receiver code's here. So the second step, we basically iterate on the photos that we want to send to the receiver once we get the receiver data. For each photo, we basically create a document, and then we attach a document to it. We attach the photos, that means to the document that's sent to the database here. So, and we also save the document ID. So docid.append doc.docid. Same steps in Android. It's also up in our GitHub page. And receive view controller, that's the last step. We have the sync QR code that we got from the QR code here. We basically have the photo document from the database. What else are we doing? We already replicated from the sender side to the receiver side. I'm just translating code here. And here we basically create a push replication with the sync URL, and we send the document ID to the replicator to push it for the document of that ID. So that's pretty much the steps from code side. What it looks like on a global scale, what we're doing is simply replicator through a REST API. Yeah, let's see this in action, peer-to-peer. So this one I'm going to go on the same network because T-Mobile won't allow it. So Droidcon. Let's kill this server. I don't need it, right? It's peer-to-peer. All right. So my phone needs to be on the same Wi-Fi network for this to work. You can fall back on like Bluetooth too, but we're using Wi-Fi. Okay, so I'm on the same network. Let's see if this works. Where is it? Photoshop. It's kind of tiny. That's larger. All right. Okay, no naughty pictures on my phone, that's good. All right, I'm gonna hit receive. So these are pictures, right? But if I select these, I want to send, I don't have access to a camera on a simulator. So let's go the other way. So I'm gonna receive. You don't, well, you can kind of see it. This is on iOS. And I can select some pictures from today. This is a nice one. So for those who weren't in our booth, this is what our booth looked like. So I have pictures in the photo drop. So if I click receive, it looks like the same screen here. If I click one of these pictures, I get to send them. So I'm gonna click what our booth looked like today. So I'm gonna click send, and my camera shows up. I'm gonna scan the QR code, and based on Wi-Fi connection, it would sync up accordingly. You can wait on it, toward your phones. It might break on me, but this is peer-to-peer because we're not sending this off to the server and then having the server push down to this device. This is simply where we're leveraging Wi-Fi. It's authenticated between two devices, the same. Let's try this again. Send. You can see like it did work. These two pictures are not the stock, they're from my phone. So let's try it. Send. Oh, nice. Eventual consistency, right? That's peer-to-peer. Any questions I want to take later, but want to raffle this 1+1 off. So again, let's go back to the presentation. I really don't trust this Wi-Fi. Anyways, that's me having trust issues maybe. Let's go back and talk about this one more time. So you guys saw two demos, right? You saw like a device going to a server, CouchBase server, pushing down back to the device, and you saw peer-to-peer. All this tech stuff, what does it translate to? So all jokes aside, this means you can Tinder offline. Think about it. Like you don't need a Wi-Fi connection. You can download pictures. Anything operates offline, right? I think the reason I say this is because a lot of times, I don't understand the use case. People click when this use case happens, right? You're right next to the person. Why can't you transfer a picture, right? You're right next to the person, peer-to-peer. You have connection. Now you don't. How come I get a screen like this where you could have just downloaded pictures, something, any content in the background, saved it, cached it, persisted on a local database, and then read off of it. So I think the next step is looking at my Twitter to see if there's any goodies, right? Yeah. Who has questions? Just curious. One question. Hey, man. Yep, go ahead.
Peer-to-peer, you need to be on the same Wi-Fi relationship.
Yep. You basically need to be on the same protocol, like your transport protocol. You know.
Same network.
Same network.
The hard part is figure out the idea of the person, and the must reach also from the same network. Then on the local network, get the idea of the other. If you have the public IP on the internet, but then how do you find out? That's the hard part. So, but discovery of.
Holy gosh. 43. Oh, wow. Should have wrote a Python script for this thing. All right, I guess it starts. Okay. Gosh. Okay, it starts kind of here. Oh, that's Laurent. Okay, you're my reference point. All right. I'm gonna go up, go down, go up more, go down. Okay. Who's that? That's you? All right, you got it. That's pretty random, right? No, that's pretty random to me. Any other questions for this stuff? You want to come up and grab your prize and for a tweet? Yeah. Everyone's like, I hate you. All right. That's a horrible background.
Just take it.
That's a horrible background too.
Just now and show your position. Yeah.
Any technical questions? Any comments? Any hate messages that you didn't get the 1+1? Happy to take your concerns offline.
You give your Twitter handle to everyone so that you get contacts and info.
Oh, like Twitter?
So that everybody can.
Oh, like Twitter is keep with Adam.
Keep with Adam. Keep with Adam. Yeah, what's up?
Just not really talking about downloading the CouchBase. What's it, only enterprises about?
Server or light? Client. Yeah, enterprise is fine. Yeah. Yeah, it's fine. There's no secretness. You're gonna get screwed by downloading enterprise, the same code base. Yeah, that's the confusing part. We're basically gonna not have community in an enterprise. It'd just be one. It shouldn't be named differently. Concerns. Friday plans. Suggestions for the drink. Okay, we're done. Thank you.